Ilhan Omar takes aim at President Donald Trump, claiming that America is not a white nation and mocking his attempts to deport her. But just seconds later, Trump fires back with a bombshell rebuttal that leaves Omar speechless. This fiery exchange has everyone talking, sparking debates across the nation about identity, leadership, and America's future. The room went silent as Ilhan Omar stood at the podium, her voice sharp and unshaken. Cameras zoomed in, flashes burst, and millions watched live. She raised her chin and declared, "The idea that America is a white nation that must be preserved is disgusting." Gasps filled the audience. Some clapped nervously, others sat in shock. Omar smirked, believing she had won the moment. She mocked President Donald J. Trump for trying to deport her, calling his America First policies racist. "Mr. Trump," she said with a sneer, "you'll never erase people like me. This country is for the many, not for the few." Her words hung heavy. Across America, televisions replayed the clip. Commentators whispered, some cheering her, others shaking their heads. But what Omar didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Trump had been waiting for this exact moment. His team sat behind him, still his stone. J.D. Vance scribbled notes. Kash Patel leaned forward. Trump's hands gripped the lectern. His eyes narrowed. And then silence. The silence was scarier than any shout. Millions of Americans leaned forward in their seats, waiting. Something powerful was coming. President Donald J. Trump didn't rush. He didn't need to. The camera zoomed closer, showing his steady expression. He let Omar's mocking words echo. Let them sink into the hearts of every American watching. The crowd shifted uneasily. Supporters stared at him, silently, begging for a response. Opponents whispered, "He has no comeback." Then Trump finally spoke softly but with weight. "Folks, nobody's taken more abuse from the radical America-hating left than me. And right at the top of that list is Ilhan Omar." The room stirred. She stands here spitting on the very country that gave her a chance. Somalia, where she came from, is drowning in corruption and chaos. She escaped that. America took her in. And now she calls us disgusting. A few claps erupted, then more. Trump didn't smile. He wasn't finished. "I fight for every patriot, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. America First is not about color. It's about loyalty. And Ilhan Omar has shown none." Gasps. People looked at Omar. Shifted uncomfortably, her smirk fading just a little. Trump paused, leaning closer into the mic. "And folks, let me tell you, her story isn't what she wants you to believe." The suspense grew heavier. Omar tried to interrupt, but Trump raised a hand. The audience hushed. His tone sharpened. "4 years, she's been running from the truth. Fraud, corruption, lies. She thinks shouting racist will protect her, but not today." The cameras swung toward Omar. Her jaw tightened. Trump's voice thundered now. "She calls America disgusting. But who's the fraud? She funneled millions to her husband's firm, while her district crumbled. She smeared ICE agents who protect our borders. She even mocked Charlie Kirk after he was tragically gunned down. Who does that?" The crowd gasped. Even some who once clapped for Omar shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Trump lowered his tone again, deliberate and cutting. "And let me tell you, her biggest scandal isn't even out yet, but it's coming. And when America hears it, she'll wish she never opened her mouth today." The silence was unbearable. Millions watching at home felt goosebumps. Something about Trump's calm confidence made it clear he wasn't bluffing. Omar, for the first time that day, looked nervous. The storm was only beginning. Omar tried to laugh, but her voice cracked. The audience caught it. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the faint unease on her face. Trump's calm confidence was breaking through her shield. Trump leaned forward. "She thinks she can throw words like racist and walk away free. But folks, Americans are not fooled anymore. They know who the real fraud is. He held up a sheet of paper. The crowd stirred. I have documents, marriage records, campaign filings, bank transfers, everything pointing to a pattern of deception. Omar shifted in her chair, gripping the microphone tighter. She whispered something to her aide. Her smirk gone completely now. The president's voice cut through like a blade. She mocks this country, but the truth is she cheated it. And the evidence is clear. The crowd erupted in murmurs across social media. Clips spread instantly. Hashtags began trending. Expose Omar and MAGA justice. Millions of Americans felt goosebumps. The moment was no longer about politics. It was about betrayal and truth. The silence broke into thunderous applause. Trump raised his hand for calm. "We're not finished yet," he said, his tone steady but filled with fire. He turned his eyes directly toward Omar. "You want to lecture America about values? Let's talk about yours. Your campaign paid nearly $3 million to your husband's firm. Money from hard-working Americans, funneled straight into your family's pockets. That's not service. That's corruption." Gasps spread. The crowd leaned forward, desperate to hear more. Omar's lips trembled as she tried to interrupt, but the boos silenced her. Trump pressed on. "You speak of love for this country, yet your record shows hate. You called our soldiers killers. You mocked 9/11 as some people did something. You smeared a young man, Charlie Kirk, as a terrorist, right before he was murdered. And now you dare call America disgusting." The room fell into dead silence. Trump's voice lowered, carrying more weight than any shout. "America gave you everything. And what did you give back? Lies, division, and fraud." The audience rose to their feet, clapping so hard it shook the walls. Omar sat frozen, her eyes darting. Trump held up his hand, signaling he had saved the biggest for last. His eyes pierced through the camera, speaking not only to Omar, but to every American watching at home. "Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't stop at corruption. We are reviewing her citizenship filings, birth certificates, marriage licenses, all of it. You've heard the rumors. Well, let me confirm. There's evidence she married her own brother to cheat the system. ICE and DHS are digging and it's not pretty." The audience gasped. Some shouted, "Lock her up." Others clasped their hands to their mouths in shock. Omar's face went pale. She reached for her phone as if desperately texting for backup, but no one came. Trump's voice thundered across the hall. "She thinks she can smear America. She thinks she can smear me. But she cannot outrun the truth. America first is not about race. It's about honor, loyalty, and love for this country. And she has none of it." The room shook with applause. Chants of USA, USA, echoing. Millions at home wiped tears from their eyes. They weren't just watching politics. They were watching a man defend America's soul. The moment Trump revealed Omar's possible marriage fraud, the air shifted. The audience erupted, some cheering wildly, others frozen in disbelief. The live broadcast carried his words into millions of homes across the country. Living rooms fell silent, workplaces paused, and phones buzzed with breaking news alerts. Clips raced across X, Facebook, and TikTok. One caption read, "Trump drops truth. Bomb on Omar live." Another shouted, "She married her brother." Within minutes, hashtags Deport Omar and Trump Truth trended at #1 worldwide. Meanwhile, Omar sat stiff, visibly rattled. Her earlier smugness was gone. She fumbled with her notes, her face pale. A reporter in the room whispered, "She's panicking." Trump didn't gloat. Instead, he looked straight into the cameras. His voice was calm, but carried power. "This isn't about politics. This is about honesty. America deserves leaders who love her, not use her." The applause was deafening. Some people in the audience had tears in their eyes. Veterans stood with hands on their hearts. The world was watching, and the storm had only begun. While Trump spoke, chaos brewed behind the cameras. Omar's aides whispered frantically, rushing to check their phones. Staffers tried to reach friendly media outlets, urging them to spin the story as racist lies. But it was too late. The truth had already gone viral. CNN anchors stuttered live on air. Fox News cut to breaking coverage. Independent streamers were screaming, "He just ended her career in one sentence." In the press section, Kash Patel leaned over to J.D. Vance and whispered, "She wasn't ready for this. Trump's holding back the biggest stuff." J.D. nodded, scribbling notes furiously. Omar tried to interject. "This is a smear. This is nothing but hate speech," she stammered, but the boos drowned her voice. People in the audience shouted, "Answer the question and show the papers." Trump raised his hand, silencing the room instantly. "Don't worry, Ilhan. We'll get to the papers. America deserves to see them." The weight of his words was crushing. Cameras caught Omar's hands trembling as she clutched her water bottle. The stage lights felt hotter. The walls seemed to close in. For Omar, every second was unbearable. Trump adjusted the microphone. His voice grew sharper, slicing through the tension. "And folks, let me remind you, it's not just marriage fraud. It's not just campaign money. It's a pattern." He held up another folder. "DHS and DOJ are reviewing her filings right now. Millions funneled offshore. Fake names tied to suspicious accounts. And all this while she calls America disgusting." The audience gasped again. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Some people covered their mouths in shock. Others raised their phones to record history being made. Trump looked directly at Omar. His tone was almost fatherly but carried a sting. "You came here for freedom. America gave you everything. And instead of gratitude, you gave lies. That's why your words don't sting me. They shame you." The crowd erupted in applause. Chants of USA, USA echoing through the hall. Omar slumped back, speechless. Her earlier bravado had crumbled into silence. Cameras zoomed in on her face, eyes darting, lips pressed tight. Across America, families watching at home felt something deep. Pride, relief, tears welled up. For once, truth was being spoken without fear. The nation was holding its breath for what Trump would reveal next. The room hushed again as Trump raised his hand. His voice cut through the tension like thunder. "Now folks, I didn't just come here with words. I came with action." He pulled out a signed document. The cameras zoomed in. The gold presidential seal glimmered under the lights. "This," Trump said, holding it high, "is Executive Order 14U89. It suspends all federal funds to corrupt officials under active citizenship review. And you know what that means. Ilhan Omar's district will no longer get to waste $750 million on sanctuary city scams while our veterans sleep on the streets." The crowd gasped, then erupted. Chants of USA, USA shook the walls. Omar's aides buried their faces in their hands. Trump slammed the folder on the podium. "That money is being redirected to build the border wall higher and to care for our forgotten heroes. America first, not anti-American frauds." Omar's face turned red. She tried to stand, but the boos drowned her out. This was no longer just an argument. It was history. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Trump's announcement dominated every platform. On Truth Social, his post read, "Ilhan Omar calls America first disgusting. She's the fraud who cheated our system and funneled millions while Minneapolis burns. DOJ probe live. Funds cut. Deportation pending. RA MAGA." It was shared over 10 million times in under an hour. Patriots from across the country replied, "Expose her. Lock her up. Trump fights for us." On X, Omar tried damage control. She posted, "This is a racist attack meant to silence me. But after 10 minutes of brutal backlash and fact checks, the post disappeared. Screenshots still spread like wildfire. CNN anchors scrambled, debating if Trump had gone too far, while Fox News replayed the executive order reveal on loop. Independent podcasters shouted, "This is the biggest takedown in modern politics." In homes across America, families sat glued to their TVs. Veterans wiped tears. Mothers whispered prayers of thanks. Even skeptics admitted Trump's words carried undeniable power. The story was no longer just about Omar. It was about America's soul. The press room. Cameras focused on Omar. She sat rigid, her jaw locked, her eyes darting from side to side. The woman who once mocked Trump boldly now looked powerless. Trump leaned toward her, his voice low but heavy. "You can call me names, Ilhan. You can shout racism all day, but you cannot erase the truth. You cheated this country, and America is done being fooled." The room erupted in applause again. Some reporters even stood clapping, breaking decades of neutrality. Omar tried to grab her microphone. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The boos grew louder. Every attempt at speaking was swallowed by the roar of the crowd. Trump didn't smile. He didn't mock her. He simply stepped back, allowing her silence to fill the space. And that silence was more powerful than any insult. Millions at home felt it. A weight lifted from their hearts. For once, the truth was louder than the lies. And yet, everyone knew Trump wasn't finished. The real bombshells had only just begun. The audience could barely contain themselves. Every word from Trump hit harder than the last. Omar, who once looked smug and untouchable, now sat frozen, her silence echoing louder than her earlier insults. Trump leaned forward again. "While she mocks this country, do you know what's happening back in her district? Shootings up 40%. Somali gangs terrorizing neighborhoods. Schools failing, and yet she sends millions of dollars to her husband's firm. Money that should have gone to help the people she claims to represent." The crowd booed loudly. Some shouted, "Shame." Others yelled, "Fraud." Omar avoided their eyes. She pressed her lips tight, staring at the floor, her hands trembling. Trump's tone softened slightly, but the sting remained. "Folks, this is not about politics. This is about betrayal. We cannot let people who hate this country steal from it." The room erupted into chants of USA, USA. Once again, Omar knew this wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a public trial before the eyes of millions. Trump tapped the folder again. "And it gets worse. The Department of Justice is investigating over $2.8 million funneled from her campaign to her husband's so-called consulting firm. $500,000 more in fees that no one can explain. And now we're tracing over $1 million to offshore accounts." The reporters in the room gasped. Phones lit up. The news was already blasting across screens nationwide. Omar tried to interject. "This is a smear. None of this is." The boos drowned her instantly. The crowd wanted answers, not excuses. Trump didn't raise his voice. Instead, he looked straight into the camera. "You've heard me say it. America first. That means taking care of our workers, our veterans, our families, not letting frauds bleed us dry." The audience stood to their feet, clapping until it shook the room. Online, millions of Americans were in tears. They saw a president not just fighting for himself, but fighting for them. The lights felt hotter, the cameras closer. Omar's face glistened with sweat. Whispered again to her aide, shaking her head. Trump stepped back, giving her one last chance to speak. "Go ahead, Ilhan," he said, his voice steady. "Defend yourself. Tell America where the money went. Tell them why your filings don't match up." Omar opened her mouth, but the words stuck in her throat. The boos started again, rolling through the crowd like thunder. Trump's voice thundered over them. She thought she could mock me today. She thought she could walk away laughing. But now, America knows the truth. The fraud is being exposed and the people will never forget. The chants began again, louder than ever. Lock her up. Lock her up. Across the nation, families watching at home felt a chill. Tears streamed down faces. Mothers, veterans, workers realizing they weren't alone. Someone was finally standing for them, speaking their pain aloud. And Omar, once so bold, sat utterly crushed. Trump raised his hand again, silencing the roaring crowd. His voice grew solemn. Let me tell you where those frozen funds are going. Not to corruption, not to sanctuary scams, but to America's heroes. He paused, letting the words land. $750 million redirected. To our veterans, our border patrol, and to rebuild American communities destroyed by crime and drugs. The crowd went wild, but this time tears filled many eyes. Veterans in the room saluted, some with shaking hands. Mothers hugged their children tighter. Trump leaned closer into the microphone. For too long, Ilhan Omar and her friends took money from your pockets and sent it to her family's pockets. Not anymore. Under my watch, your tax dollars will finally serve you. The applause thundered through the hall. Chants of thank you, Trump, echoing. Omar sat rigid, her shoulders slumped. America had just watched the tables turn live and in real time across the nation. Emotions ran high. In a Texas diner, veterans gathered around the TV, fists pounding the table with pride. Finally, one man whispered, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. Finally, someone stood up for us. In Ohio, a family paused their dinner as Trump's words played on screen. The father placed a hand over his heart. His young daughter whispered, Daddy, he's protecting us. Isn't he? The father nodded, fighting back tears. On social media, millions poured their hearts out. One woman wrote, my husband died, waiting for VA care. Tonight, Trump gave me hope again. Another posted a video, holding back so he fights for us. That's why we love him. Meanwhile, Omar's deleted post became a meme. Screenshots of her failed defense spread like wildfire with captions like 10 minutes of shame. It was no longer just politics. This was deeply personal. Americans felt they were witnessing justice in real time. Back in the press room, Omar tried one last time. Her voice cracked as she grabbed the mic. This is a racist witch hunt. This president is twisting lies to silence me. But instead of applause, the audience erupted in boos. Some shouted, show the papers. Others screamed, answer. For the money. Trump didn't interrupt. He simply stood, arms folded, watching her crumble. His silence was more powerful than any words. Omar's aides rushed forward, whispering frantically, trying to shield her from the cameras. But the cameras caught everything. Her trembling hands, her faltering eyes, her voice breaking apart. Trump finally leaned into the mic. Ilhan, you thought you could mock me today, but America sees the truth. You can't shout your way out of corruption. You can't hide behind race when the facts are clear. The crowd cheered again deafeningly. Omar sat down defeated, covering her face with her hand. Across America, people watching cried, not from sadness, but from relief. They felt their voice, long ignored, had finally been spoken aloud. Trump held up another folder, thicker than the first. The camera zoomed in as he tapped it with his finger. Inside this, he said slowly, are the records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, filings, the very documents Ilhan Omar has tried to hide for over a decade. Gasps spread across the room. Reporters leaned forward. The crowd hushed instantly. Trump's voice grew stronger. This isn't gossip. This isn't rumor. This is evidence. And it confirms exactly what Americans suspected. That her entire rise in politics was built on lies. Omar's head dropped into her hands. The audience booed again. One man shouted, "Show the papers." Another yelled, "Send her back to Somalia." Trump didn't smile. His tone carried a weight far heavier than politics. America deserves truth, and truth is not racist. It is righteous. She mocks us, but tonight the fraud is exposed. The chants of USA rattled the walls. Omar sat speechless. Back in Washington, her allies scrambled. AOC avoided cameras, ducking into side doors. Rashida Tlaib tweeted furiously about Gaza, never mentioning Omar's name. Reporters begged for comment, but silence filled the air. For the first time, the squad was fractured, none of them willing to stand beside Omar in this storm. In Minnesota, her district, staff panicked. Phones rang off the hook, constituents demanding answers. One veteran's voice cracked over the line. "How dare she steal from us? Dare she mock the country we fought for?" Cable news panels buzzed. Even left-leaning hosts admitted the silence of Omar's allies spoke volumes. "If the squad won't defend her," one analyst said, "maybe they know something we don't." Meanwhile, Trump doubled down online. His Truth Social post hit 50 million shares in under 2 hours. "America First is winning because truth is winning," he wrote. The divide was clear. Omar's camp shrinking into silence. Trump's movement roaring louder than ever. The press room had become something no one expected. Emotional battlefield. Veterans wiped tears from their faces. Mothers hugged their children, whispering, "This is why we love America." One elderly man in the crowd stood with trembling hands. He shouted, "Mr. President, thank you for fighting for us." His voice broke, and suddenly the entire room applauded him. Trump nodded respectfully. His face softened. "Sir, it's my honor." America forgot about its people for too long, but not anymore. The audience roared. But this time, it wasn't just noise. It was heartfelt, raw emotion. People cried openly. Families watching at home felt the same. It was as if years of pain, betrayal, and silence were finally being lifted. Meanwhile, Omar sat crushed, staring blankly. The once defiant voice was gone. Trump raised his voice one last time in that moment. "Tonight, the world sees the difference. She mocks. I fight. She steals. I give back. And the people of America will always know who stood for them." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause that shook the building. From New York to California, America felt the shock. In Times Square, a giant screen replayed Trump's words. She mocked America. But tonight, the fraud is exposed. Crowds gathered, some clapping, some crying, strangers hugging each other. With pride. In a small church in Georgia, the pastor paused mid-sermon and turned on the live stream. Parishioners wept as Trump's voice echoed through the sanctuary. "This is not about politics. This is about betrayal." On the West Coast, truck drivers tuned in over CB radios. One voice broke through the static. "Boys, I've been on this road 30 years. Never thought I'd see a president this bold. He's fighting for us." Meanwhile, Omar's silence spread like wildfire. Clips of her trembling hands were viewed 80 million times within an hour. The internet was merciless. Memes poured in. Captions reading, "From mocking to silence in seconds." America had picked its side, and Omar's corner was shrinking fast. Back in the press room, Trump invited ordinary Americans to speak. A veteran in uniform stood, tears streaking down his face. "My brothers died waiting for care. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving veterans a voice again." The crowd roared, many crying openly. Then a single mother stepped forward. Her voice shook as she held her son's hand. "My neighborhood is falling apart. Crime, gangs, drugs, and she, the woman pointed at Omar, does nothing but take. Mr. President, tonight you gave us hope." The hall erupted again. Applause mixed with sobs. Reporters who usually stayed stone-faced now wiped their eyes. Trump nodded solemnly, placing his hand over his heart. This fight is not mine alone. It belongs to every American family who has been ignored, forgotten, or betrayed. The chants of USA, USA drowned out everything else. Omar sat in silence, her eyes glassy. As night fell, the fiery exchange dominated every network. Debates lit up television screens. Some pundits called Trump's words the most powerful speech of his presidency. Others admitted Omar had no defense left. College students argued in dorm rooms. Families debated over dinner tables. But the conclusion was the same. America had witnessed a turning point. Online, even celebrities joined in. One country singer tweeted, "Trump just spoke what every working American feels. God bless him." An NFL player posted, "He fights harder than anyone I've seen. Respect." Meanwhile, Omar's allies went dark. Her last attempt at damage control, a short press release calling Trump dangerous, was ripped apart within minutes. Pollsters scrambled. Overnight data showed Trump's approval surging past 65%, while Omar's favorability collapsed into the 20s. Back in the White House, Trump stood firm at the podium, ready to unleash his closing words. The nation held its breath, knowing the biggest reveal was still ahead. The room grew silent again when a Vietnam veteran stood, his hat in his hands. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Mr. President, I waited 15 years for my disability claim. 15 years. They told me the money wasn't there, but now I see where it went. Into corruption, into fraud, and tonight you gave us justice." The crowd erupted in applause. Many people crying with him. Trump stepped forward, placing a hand on the veteran's shoulder. "Sir, America failed you before, but under my leadership, it will never fail you again." The man saluted through his tears. The image spread across the internet instantly, captioned, "A promise kept." Even reporters who had doubted Trump found themselves shaken. One whispered, "This is bigger than politics. This is history." Omar, meanwhile, sat motionless. Her face was pale, her eyes lowered, her earlier fire completely gone. The stage had shifted entirely. No longer about her insults, but about America's pain being healed. Omar's aides tried to escort her quietly from the stage, but the crowd erupted with boos. "Answer the questions," they shouted. "What about the money?" She froze, caught under the blinding cameras. For the first time, the woman who once mocked Trump so boldly looked trapped. Trump's voice cut through the chaos, steady and calm. "Ilhan, running won't save you. Deleting posts won't save you. America deserves answers, and you will give them." The audience roared in approval. On live television, Omar attempted to respond, but her voice broke. This is racism," she stammered. But the crowd shouted louder. "Lies. Fraud." Trump leaned back into the microphone. "America First is not about race. It's about loyalty. You betrayed this country, and tonight the truth caught up with you." The roar of USA, USA drowned everything else. Omar lowered her head. She had no fight left. Then came the moment that sent shock waves coast to coast. Trump lifted the thick folder again, his eyes locked with the cameras. DHS has confirmed irregularities in Omar's 2009 filings. The documents don't match. Names don't line up, and the investigation is live right now. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scrambled, texting editors. Phones buzzed across America with breaking news alerts. Trump's voice thundered. "She mocked this country. She mocked me. But she cannot mock the truth. She gamed the system. She funneled millions. And now the people know it all." The audience erupted into deafening applause, many rising to their feet in tears. Omar sat slumped, hands covering her face, completely shattered. Online, hashtags exploded. "Truth wins, expose Omar, America First." Families across the nation cried as they watched, finally feeling that justice was being spoken for them. Veterans, mothers, workers, everyday Americans saw a leader standing against lies. The stage was set for the final, most powerful conclusion. The lights in the press room felt hotter than fire. Omar shifted in her chair, her voice gone, her hands trembling as Trump's words replayed on every screen. She gamed the system. She funneled millions. And now the people know it all. Around her, reporters no longer shielded her. Questions flew like arrows. Congresswoman, did you marry your brother? What about the missing funds? Do you deny DHS findings? She had no answer. Each second of silence was deafening. Cameras zoomed in. On her face, sweat glistening, lips trembling. The woman who mocked America with laughter was now silent before the entire nation. Meanwhile, Trump stood, tall, his voice calm but fierce. This is not my victory. This is America's. Tonight, the truth speaks louder than lies. Applause broke into chants of USA, USA. The floor shook with passion. Tears rolled down the cheeks of veterans, parents, and workers in the room. It was more than politics. It was a reckoning. Across the country, people gathered in living rooms, diners, and church halls, watching history unfold. In Ohio, a factory worker hugged his wife, whispering, "Finally, someone fights for us." In Texas, a mother of 3 cried, as she prayed, "God bless our president." In Florida, veterans stood together, saluting the screen as Trump promised. No family forgotten, no soldier abandoned, no American betrayed again. Even those who once doubted him now felt the weight of his words. He wasn't speaking as a politician. He was speaking as a father, a fighter, and a patriot. Omar's downfall was no longer just about her corruption. It symbolized something deeper. The fight between those who betrayed America and those who still believed in her greatness. The chants grew louder nationwide. On college campuses, at truck stops, even in small towns long forgotten by Washington, voices echoed the same phrase. America first. The nation was crying, tears of pride, pain, and hope all at once. Back at the podium, Trump raised his hand to quiet the roaring crowd. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with fire. Tonight, Ilhan Omar learned something. America is not for sale. Our people cannot be bought. Our future cannot be cheated. And our faith cannot be mocked. This land belongs to the patriots. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. Every American who bleeds red, white, and blue. That is who I fight for. That is who I will never abandon. The room exploded. Tears streamed down faces. Strangers embraced. The moment was raw, powerful, unforgettable. Omar sat frozen, her career shattered by silence. But Trump didn't even look at her anymore. His words were for the people. For every worker, every soldier, every family, America is back, stronger, united, and more unstoppable than ever. The chants of USA thundered like never before. And now, patriots, if this story moved you, if it made you cry, if it filled you with pride, then don't stay silent. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment about how this moment touched you. Join our membership today to unlock special features and be part of this family that fights for truth, hope, and America's future. Together we are unstoppable.